And it's starting. So, hello, I'm Jorge Organista. I'm the National Director for Diversity for Omega Delta Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I'm here doing another one on one video call with a brother, and I'll have him introduce himself.
Hey guys. So, want me to just introduce a little bit about me?
Yeah, so what's your name?
All right. So, Kenneth Isaac Anderson. Actually, my name. It's actually gone through, but I'm getting it legally changed to Anderson for those who are a little bit confused. Um, I crossed that Alpha Mu chapter in the fall 2012 on November 16th. Line brothers with me, so we were a class of 13. I was number 19. My line name was Sir Voodoo. I was the super pledge of my line. It's also been a running theme in my tree. I have a lot of super pledges in my tree. What else did you want to know? Where I go now? Actually, I guess I should say now I've switched. I now go to Tamu CC Colony, so I'm with them now.
Wait, have you finished? You finished your undergrad, right? Already?
No, I was supposed to finish this semester, but my department is falling apart, so they've pushed me and about 10 other people back about a year. So
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I totally thought you already graduated.
well, I'm a early alumni, but I'm not really hooked on the title. I got the vote in, but I'm not doing anything other than being intake officer until I actually have the diploma in my hand.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's okay. Um, Wait, what university was the one you were at that you crossed out?
I crossed at Texas A&M University Kingsville.
Okay, because you said the entity chapter letters, and some people don't know the entity chapter letters. Cool. And then what are you studying?
I originally started with chemical engineering when I pledged. Got a 3.5, but I didn't like it. Spoke to one of our alumni, Johnny Gomez, and he convinced me to switch to electrical engineering. I took one semester of that where I took hardware component classes and software component classes. I liked the software better, so I switched over to computer science. I then found out that computer science, they were actually trying to hide from us that they weren't accredited. So they kind of spilled the beans on that to us like spring 14. So me and three other guys left and went to Tamu CC, and we got accreditation with NSA for a cybersecurity program. So I'm currently finishing up my cybersecurity and network infrastructure. So I'll be doing network engineering.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you like numbers?
I like data. I
You
guess
like data? Okay.
I like data. Not so much math crunching. Thankfully, the components are smart enough to do it. I do have to do a little bit of like physics, and I have to do a little bit of logistics, like calculating like sound latency and data latency and transmit time and all that. But it's all fun because it still deals with breaking down data.
Cool. Well, yeah. I did not study that. I don't know if you know, but I created my own major at the University of Utah, and it was what I titled it was social justice pedagogy. And pedagogy is teaching. That's what I do. I'm in education, and social justice is well. There's a lot of definitions of social justice, right? But my
Yeah.
definition, I guess. Sorry, I have like chocolate in my teeth. I'm like eating chocolate. My definition of chocolate, I mean, my social justice is not chocolate. It's if you think about social as like society, and then the justice, like think of the injustices in society, and like how do we tackle those issues. So it could be
Right.
anything from any from people's identities to communities. That's there's a lot of things that impact injustices in society, right? So, but cool. And then as a national director of diversity, I get to work on those issues and making sure we empower our brothers, because we have brothers, since we're multicultural, that had lots of identities, and that's what we're going to talk about today, which is always fun. And
I've already been pretty outspoken about it thus far, so it's good that we'll finally actually get to shed some one-on-one light with it. Because I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I have been pretty outspoken about empowering our brothers thus far.
right, and that's why I'm glad that you're going to be on the national team, I guess, for diversity. And so I'm glad you came prepared. You sent me the pictures. And so I'm going to put them and share the screen on here. Let me do that over here. Okay, so the first one is when you felt the most hype. Is it this one?
Yes, it is. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I was on the region. I've been on the regional board for about 3 years. It was my third term. See that? I'm like right there in the very back. But um, let's see. Am I there? I think that's me. Yeah, right there, and like right behind Manny. Yeah, who's holding the trophy? That's me right there. Okay. So actually, I think I'm
Can you
wearing.
see my clicker?
I'm actually wearing the same shirt, but uh, I had been undergrad rep for 2 consecutive semesters, pretty much unanimously voted in, and I've been working a long time. So I got to see the transition from our former director, Daniel Ramirez, Alpha alumni, to Manny, who was Alpha Tau, who's from our region. And it was just right before I'd switched over to programming and I'd left the undergrad chair to my little, Francisco, who had just finished up rounding up his first term in this picture. So it was extremely it just felt like 3 years worth of work of dedication and long nights and traveling. A lot of people don't know this, but I physically drove to every single chapter in my region. I remember in 1 week I put over 2,000 miles on my car, and
Wow.
and for the most part, except for a couple of times, I think in total I maybe asked for $50 in reimbursement on gas. Out of the thousands and thousands of miles I drove, I only asked for 50 once. Everything else was out of my own pocket. And I traveled from as far up to Austin and as far south as Laredo. And I made sure each one of these guys got personal attention. I sat down with them. Sometimes it was maybe only 1 or 2 people. Sometimes it was maybe for only 5 or 10 minutes, but it didn't matter because it's just what was needed as needed. And I made sure that made sure these guys felt like they were part of the region. And to have all that culminate into getting, region of the year, it's just, if you were there at the banquet when they announced it, I like stood up and like started screaming like I was.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it.
Yes, I threw my fist in the air. I almost started crying just because it really did feel like it was just 3 years of hard work being put into one final point, and just being rewarded with it in front of the entire nation of OD5 just was, I can't describe it.
Yeah, well, I'm part of the Southwest region, and Southwest region had been getting it before. And when you all got it, I felt bummed, but I knew that you all put in the work that was needed for that, and that's why I was like, oh, doesn't matter. And especially as that person that's in the national position, I'm like, this is great that like other regions are putting in the work to not only keep the bar going up, but showing that it's possible. Like you put in the work and you get recognized for it.
And that's true. And with that, I wouldn't be lying if I said that we weren't actively gunning for Southwest region. Like you guys were, and like we had our crosshairs on you guys. We were actively, like a lot of times we'd be like, hey guys, like Southwest is doing this. We need to make sure we're keeping up with them, or not, if not, doing better than they can. So it was an active correlation. You guys sitting here and then us trying to be here, and we hope that now you guys will jump here and we'll jump here, and we just hope it's a constant ladder, like upward.
And I know a couple of people in this picture. I know Abraham. Can you see my clicker thingy?
Yeah, I can see your clicker thing. You're focusing on.
Okay, it's on Abraham. Abraham is so silly. He's one of my PBs. I remember I met him at the NLI in Salt Lake City, and he's one of the brothers that just like randomly, either on the hype or just other pages, 87 Crew, like he tags me even though I'm not related to it. Like people are like, oh, does someone live in Washington? And he tags me, and then people hit me up, and I'm like, no, I don't live in Washington or whatever. And so he's a silly.
That's hilarious.
And then there's Jalen on top, also a PB, and he's just Right now, I'm going to be working with him for some stuff. He has some cool ideas of what this website he wants to do to like showcase more about multicultural Greeks. So, and then let me see who else I know. Of course, Tony's hiding there. Is that Tony? No, it's not.
Well, that is Tony. That little face is hiding there. That's Tony. Yes, I mean,
okay.
Today I was just creeping into our picture.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, wait. Steve just like commented or whatever on something, and then let me see who else I know. Arturo, who's also a PB, and then Antonio, right?
That's Antonio. He's from my college.
Yeah, so that's where like we could talk about that. Like, let's talk about that. So I usually talk about when I usually met the brother the first time. When was the first time I ever met you? I don't like in person.
The first time you met me, I don't think was at the airport. I think there was a time before that we met. I want to say, like, let's see, you crossed what, Fall 13? I think did you go to Arizona? when we had Nuck there, when the two brothers, we had that little accident.
Oh no, I was not there.
Okay, then. And you know what? I think the first time I met you might have been at the airport. The only other time I can think of is if you ever came to visit in San Antonio.
I was in San Antonio, but I don't think I met you in San Antonio when I was there. But yeah, then I met you at the and I saw you again in person at the Corpus Christi when I was there in September, I think, right? Ish. And then I just for me, I just forget like where brothers are or live, and yeah, I ate dinner with some brothers, and you were there.
You went to Applebee's, yes.
Applebee's, yeah, that's true. I have a picture of that. I have pictures of when I travel. But cool. And so that's like a little bit. So Kenny and I do know each other, and it's always nice when we do know each other like a little bit beforehand. Not that that's required when it comes to like working, but it allows more like that you feel more approachable when you know someone, a brother personally,
Fluidity of conversation.
Right. And so, especially when conversations we have like with the diversity team, like it need to be as open and authentic as possible, right?
Agreed.
So cool. Next picture, let me see here, or the question is about when you felt gratitude for a certain brother. Is it
No,
this one?
That's there you go.
Okay, so it's this one.
Well, actually, this one in there is a brother, and Dora, the brother, the guy that's directly above the girl, with the shades, with the red sunglasses. Yes, that is one of probably my closest brother that I have in this fraternity. That's Ryan. As everyone may know or not know already, I'm actually part of the suicide awareness team. It's because I almost committed suicide. I was very close, and the first brother I reached out to when I had my episode was him. We've been super close for about 2 years now, 3 years. Actually, we met in fall of 13. We started getting close in fall of 14, and it was 2015 where our bond really started getting more palpable. And like I said, he's become the first brother that I go to whenever I had relationship problems, when I have family problems, whenever I had anything. He's usually my first go-to guy, and vice versa. Whenever he's having problems, I'm usually the first person he goes to, and we just have a very strong trust that really the only way I can describe it is it's evolved beyond the brotherhood. It's like he is a blood brother to me. He is someone that I consider a piece of my family. And when I had my episode, the first person I called to, before I called anyone else, before I called my mom, before I called anyone I was talking to, I called him and I told him what was going on. And I said it in the status, kind of hinting at it, but if it weren't for Ryan, I probably would not be here today. In fact, it's not probably, I would not be here today. If Ryan hadn't intervened and talked me down, I probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation right now.
That's Ryan, and he's from the same entity that you crossed in?
He's from Houston. He's from university. He is the same age as me. If I had immediately gone to college the year after I graduated, I would have been his blood brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
And how did you meet him?
We met through the hype. Originally, my little bro, Francisco Javier Ramirez, my second little, the first time he pledged, he actually didn't pledge at Kingsville. He went to Houston, back to his hometown, and he went to U of H. And he went there when Ryan was PME. So I contacted Ryan and let him know, hey, this guy that I've been basically building up to pledge, he's going to be pledging you guys, so just keep an eye on him. So he kept tabs on me. Ultimately, Francisco ended up leaving. He dropped out because he was going to come back to Kingsville, and he pledged again, and he became my little bro. But aside from that, I kept tabs on Ryan, and we kind of just messaged here and there, just saying, hey, what's up, just basic bro stuff. And then I got the opportunity to go to Houston and visit, and so he was the first one to offer, like, you can crash at my place, and that's pretty much where it all started.
And I think that's really good. That's why I asked these kind of three main questions in the beginning, especially with sometimes hard to get pictures, but especially the second one about being the gratitude of a certain brother. It's not that that one brother is more important than another brother, right? This is just to showcase how brotherhood is important, right? Right.
I wouldn't say that there's another brother that I feel is inferior. It's just that for me in particular, I have the strongest bond with them. That shouldn't. It's independent of every other brother. Every brother is their equal and own, entity to me. But him, he just happens to be that person that I gravitate to the most.
Right, and that's the beauty of like being grateful about the benefits of a brotherhood, right? So there's, especially with this committee that you're going to be on, which is the mental wellness and suicide prevention, that's something that we're going to talk about. Is there shouldn't be any brother that if they do get to that point, right? There's many
Right.
factors of why a brother would think of committing suicide. But if like you mentioned with your story, there should be, if it goes to that point, there should be at least one brother in the
Yeah.
fraternity, in the brotherhood, that you have connected with and you feel like you can like contact and reach out to, whether that be a brother that's a big bro or a little bro, or in your entity, or like as it shows here, like it's someone completely that you connected with because through the hype or through a conference, right? It's just, it's so important for that relationship to be there when it comes to that specific topic of mental wellness and suicide prevention.
For
So
sure. It just so happens, I'm very lucky. I know he was my go-to guy. I immediately knew, like it was without a doubt. First person I got to call was Ryan. But if he happened to not answer, I had a list of other dudes. It would have been Antonio, my little Tyler, my little Francisco, Vicente. There was just a whole list of bros I could have gone to. It's just he was the first one because he's he's the guy I talk to every day. So we already had that rapport established.
right, and it's sometimes hard, and that's what conversations are going to be about. It's like it's hard for brothers to build relationships with each other that are authentic or feel like you can support all the way when maybe an identity you have is shamed, right?
Yeah.
And so whether that could be an identity with mental wellness, that could be an identity with your sexuality, that could be an identity with your religion, that could be an identity with your race, right? Or ability. It could be any identity. That's why we have all these committees, because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, everyone's mental wellness is there, and it doesn't even have to be affected by other brothers, but it can be affected by your school, your family situation, your work situation, right? And so that's what the brotherhood is there to support. So, but this is great. I'm glad I got this. Are the other people in the picture brothers too?
Well, actually, if there is, that's his blood brother. But I was going to add one more thing. It's funny that you mentioned is we've actually had disagreements. Me and him actually just the other day, actually yesterday, we had an agreement because we have two very different identities. He's very much Catholic, and I'm very much an atheist, and we butted heads on that more than once. But that speaks to the power of how much we are, because that doesn't change the fact that we both consider each other very strong brothers, and that it's been ever present. That's something that we don't dismiss that as two differences that we have, but we embrace it for each other, and we look beyond that to see what it really means to be brothers. So
Yeah.
I thought that was very important to mention, because you would think that someone that's as outspoken as I am and someone that's as devout as he is, that we wouldn't be able to be compatible, but that's quite the opposite.
Right, and that's so cool. Like I think that I know if it's in our committee, that's the same, right? We might have people that not like have contrasting ideas or beliefs, right? And Tony, our national president, wanted to talk about that. He's like, we want to validate and support the diversity, not only within identities, but also the diversity of thought. Which I'm like, yeah, well, that's. I would tell them, I'm like, well, duh, like, well, yeah, it's gonna happen, but it still has to be an approach where those diverse thoughts, no one is attacking another person. Where in the sense, like, it's also shamed, right? So, but yeah, it's really cool that in the end, if there's true brotherhood, or there's, that's gonna allow honesty, right? Since that's one of our values, and brothers can be honest with each other. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because, like you mentioned, about how you're an atheist, and then you're gonna be working with me, and
you are Mormon, I correct? If I'm not.
Yeah, I am Mormon and I am religious. That I don't know if you saw the podcast that I had with Tony when we were in Boston, but Tony is Mormon too.
No, I didn't.
I know.
I had no clue that Tony's a Mormon. Oh man.
I know that's like, lots of brothers don't know that, but we had a great conversation. Like, we connected really well in that way. Like, and then there's like different levels of people being active, right? Just like in the brotherhood too, right? He has the beliefs he believes, but doesn't always mean that you follow everything, right? So, or people, and then that's where back to identities. People that aren't part of the religion, and or anyone, even if you aren't part of the religion, you shouldn't shame anyone saying like, oh, based on what I think the beliefs are, and you not following them, and then you're shaming that. You know, the intersectionalities of how your behavior or other identities are shouldn't ever be shamed, because you know what you believe in, you know what you want to be and want to become. So we were talking about that because he's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, you know, like, yeah, if you know Tony, yeah, you would sometimes think, you know, a stereotypical Mormon. So.
Yeah, that you would have totally gotten that. Totally went by my head. I would have never predicted that.
Yeah, so yeah, we got great conversations. We sometimes text each other stuff, and so, but so that's the second one. The third question with the picture is when you felt empowered because you were part of the Brotherhood, and that's, let me see, let me get that picture. That's this one, right?
Yes. Now,
Cool.
this one was very special to me. That is Justin Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Got the best GPA, so he had his award, which is Scarlet Knight. Silver Knight was awarded to Brother of the Region, which the region felt was a best representation of what it just meant to be OD5, which includes all of our sacraments, living by the too proud, too hype, one culture in your age. Just best promoted what it meant as a brother to be OD5, and they chose me. And it just made it feel like, coming to add a bit of background, I basically come from a background where no one liked me, no one accepted me. I was constantly bullied. I didn't have very many friends growing up. So to go from that in high school, all the way up into high school, and even in college, when I went to my first college, no one really liked me. To go from that to having, at least at that time, an entire region of 10 chapters, all collectively saying, this is the guy that best represents us, and putting me as the model for them. It's just, I didn't know how to express it. It finally felt like, you know, maybe everything I do does have a purpose, and maybe it is everyone else that's wrong and has been wrong throughout my life, and maybe I should continue doing what I'm doing. So yeah, that's when I felt it was vindication for all the years that I spent being made fun of, to finally feel like who I am as a person was being empowered.
Right, and within basic sociology and in psychology, we all have an inherent sense of belonging.
Yes.
And that's why with this, when it doesn't happen, you know, different people cope in different ways, right? But it is hard on anyone when they feel like they don't belong. And as you're saying here, this is when it was validated not only that you do belong, but that you are a leader, that you are a role model. This is like what a brother could be like and should be like. And not only was that validation helpful for you, like you said, with the past, but it's also something that was needed, and that gratitude showing that you that with everything you've been putting in work, especially since you're saying like you're the regional undergrad rep, and then like I think it's a great way to as you said, the question was how are you felt empowered, and empowerment happens when it goes beyond just the validation of who you are and what you've done, but then to the point where it's like what you have been doing has been constructive and positive to whatever we're working on, right? So here it's the Brotherhood, in there it's your region, and then there it's for even yourself as a person, right?
Yeah.
So that's so cool.
In this picture, this is actually the conference I very first got nominated as an undergrad rep. I hadn't even started my first term yet. I got appointed undergrad rep at that conference. So this was just me being a brother for a year, and I'd already made waves.
Wow.
And so yeah, so I was just completely blown away by the fact that fall 13, I was a pro fight in this picture, by the way. I had barely finished my pro fight semester. And so really I only had about a semester and a half maybe to showcase myself. And for them to already like take notice and say, this is the guy we want, that I didn't know how to express it in the words.
That's so cool. So yeah, that's kind of cool, especially since that's before you actually started serving. Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's like OD famous bros.
I think I've earned my spot up there, if I can humbly say. But I'm
right, little by little, right, for different reasons. Some brothers are OD famous for I don't think the best reasons, right. But some brothers are famous because of just length they've been in the fraternity, and others for money, and others like here, like where it's like I think we need to start showcasing brothers that have not only put in actual work while they've been in undergrad, but the examples of like what brotherhood means, right? And this is what I think a great example would be.
Yeah, and hopefully it continues to stay away. I have no plan of diminishing. So if anyone's fed up with me, sorry, you're gonna get more of it, because this was really the turning point where it's like, okay, what I'm doing is correct. I need to go further, and I've been doing so ever since.
Great. So, sorry, I just keep coughing because the pollution in Utah is kind of bad. So let me see here. So that's all three pictures, and let me go back to stop. No. Oh, okay. How do I show myself?
There you go.
Okay, you see me? Okay. It's showing everyone who. Okay, there, it's showing me. So, great. Thanks for sharing the pictures and the stories. So the next one is I want you to think about when you felt that you were unable to be the most authentic self, your most authentic, best self within the brotherhood.
Unable, or I was able.
Was able.
Was able.
Yeah.
That's tough. When I was able to be the most. There's so many points that I've actually had. It was really tough for me to choose one. I think one of the best ones that I had was when I was allowed to be assistant PME for it was Spring 16 Delta class. I was allowed to finally take the reins as someone who was a seasoned brother, and I got to convey everything that I truly thought that the brotherhood was about. Now, of course, Tyler, my little, he was PME, so he held the reins. He taught them how to get through the day-to-day operations. He taught them about what it meant to be a brother, everything like that. But all the nuances and all the things that you can't learn inside the manual that really just take experience, and in my opinion, take age along with experience to convey in a concise way, Tyler gave me full reign to do. So I got to sit down with these brothers and explain to them, yes, it's unity and this is unity, but why is unity? Why is it honesty? Why do we choose integrity instead of another value? Why do we choose leadership? Why do we pride on something? How can you use the seven techniques to sharpen the saw? How do you implement the 10 steps to understanding others? Why should you take advantage of Unity Week? What does it translate to? How do you use it in the real world? And I got to use my real world experiences to kind of convey that to them in a way that was appropriate. And it carried over, because when they got to regionals and they had their regional meet, they told me that they kind of stood head and shoulders above everyone else because of the way that they were able to convey what they had learned from me. And that just really felt like it was vindication, because I was actually PME. It's gonna get a little raw here, but I was actually PME when I first got to Corpus, but due to politics, if you will, I kind of unceremoniously and unfairly had PME stripped of me without just cause. So it felt great that the brothers that came in saw that, acknowledged it, and said, you know what, here's your chance to vindicate yourself. And they let me. And it was a real chance for me to just give my raw, unbridled emotions and unbridled intellect onto what I felt should be taught in the process.
And I think that's true with, I've heard that too with other bros, and especially I felt it myself too when I was PME. Like, it's just when you're mentoring other people, or like, you have that role and that responsibility, like you have to kind of realize, like, in what way am I going to approach this? Am I actually going to be authentic, or am I not, right? I guess I can show myself while I'm speaking too. Okay, so yeah. So I think about, since I'm an educator, like I think about that all the time. And like in the classroom, like the first day of class, I'm like, who am I going to be? The obvious answer should be myself, right? But depending on how vulnerable you want to be, and how vulnerable you're you've allowed yourself to be with your own self without other people, that's how authenticity is gonna be, right? I tell I'm real with my students. I don't put on a mask or like pretend I'm something. And then when I was PME, that was like kind of the first place I officially did that with people, and I'm like, especially if they want to be my brothers and I want them to be my brothers, like I should do that. And it's things like you said, your knowledge that you want to share, it has to be shared authentically. Like, I think it's really easy, at least with students I work with, like they can like tell when something's fake, right? It's not real. Like you're telling them something and it's like they could be like, oh, I can tell. It's just super easy for them to like smell the BS that's happening or I'm telling with them. And I teach health, so like I can't like fake things with our information, right? So and the process is something too where it's like you can't be telling them like, yeah, we have honesty and integrity when maybe you're not honest, or you have integrity, or your brothers or the chapter or an entity, right? And so it's like really important for the PMs to have that. So super cool to hear that like I said, it doesn't have to be one instance, but like various instances, and especially when that happens, like it works. And you're the Tony told me how you're the one that like that's well, the main kind of person that was working on
Yes.
for the, what is it called, the Big Bro manual.
Yes, the Big Brother manual. Yes, I was actually, really honestly, I solely wrote that all by myself. There was not
That's
really
good.
anyone that wrote it with me. I wrote from beginning to end. Every single word was typed out by me. There was not a single other person that typed it. It's been revised. Chewy would say maybe look into adding something like this to add this tone, maybe include this. But the wording, the language, the diction, the syntax, everything, every point that was covered, anything that's major was written and done by me. So
And
I do feel proud about that, by the way. Yes, and that is a bragging point that I have because it felt great that I was trusted. And that was the other example I was going to give, but I felt like this one was a more pertinent one because it dealt with other brothers. But it felt great to have a hand in writing something that's now going to be nationally used. So every brother that now walks through these doors is now going to be, in a way, affected by what I wrote.
mhm. And I was looking through it because I'm supposed to look through anything that with the Brotherhood, just in terms of diversity, um, and everyone's just kind of getting used to that, including me. But yeah, I was looking through it. It was really good. I thought it was really cool. Like I didn't get a little bro until like 3 years into being a brother, which was like painful because I look forward to that from the time I crossed. I was like, I'm gonna be a big bro one day, and like I didn't get that opportunity until like 3 years later, and it was so hard like to wait. And now I'm on my third, and I'm like, yay! Like it's so great, and I love mentoring. 'Cause that's what I do, like on the day to day. But like being a big bro is like one of the best places to be authentic. I remember my first little bro, Andres. Let me see if I have the picture. I don't even know if I have the picture. But you know how like on Snapchat there's like the what you call it,
Filters?
the emoji things, or like mit emoji things, like cartoon that you make yourself.
Yes.
So there's I'm gonna have to find it. Let me find it. What I'm talking about. But anyways, so with him, I don't know if I'll find it, but it's just like there's one that there's an option where you can have his character and your character and be in similar scenes, or right. And there's one of him and that was on there that I created. It's like it showed me as like a unicorn costume, and I'm like rainbows are coming out of me, and like it's like, but it's coming out of my butt, and it's like on him, and then it's just like no, and then on that I said it's like I said it to him, and I was like, this is like the quote is like, when the big bro is too authentic, like this is how you feel. And he was just like, yeah, that's true. And I was like, you know what, Andres, I'm so glad that I can do that. I can be authentic, but you not only stick with it, but you help me. And I told him, I'm like, it's very healing. It's healing when you haven't when other people haven't allowed that before, whether that's, like I said, like from bullying in the past, or that's from people not wanting to be a good friend, or just any past relationships you've had, right? And it's so healing to have a brother um, allow you to be authentic and not shame you ever. And
Right.
so That's good. I love the example you gave. So I can't find it. Anyways, I'll post it another time somewhere.
There were some key
Let
points
me
that
see it.
I like the fact that you had pointed out that I think I touched on pretty well. Um, my cat.
Yeah,
He's
I
just,
was like, what is that? I'm scared.
as you can tell, he's just lazy as hell, and he's gonna be there the entire time. But anyways, I think I remember noticing something that you said that you want to check for wellness and knowing how to get out of our own way and letting people be their own identity. And I think I touched on that pretty well. As fact is, being a big bro sometimes is not about controlling your little bro. Sometimes being a big bro is just getting out of the way and letting your little bro be himself. And that can sometimes be the biggest blessing you can give him, as well as being aware of different mood types and being aware of different personalities. That's something I really wanted to touch on because I felt like in the past we didn't hit on that. And there's so many different types of people that we bring into this fraternity that just have a one size fits all is not doable. You need to be aware that there's like at least 4 different personalities, there's 4 different mindsets, and you have all these different ways you can interact with them. To try and put a one size fits all on it just will not do. And you need to kind of know where the leadership and where the fellowship come forth.
Exactly. And you know, that's why I think it's so important for people to have that experience of being a big bro, even though it's a privilege and not a right. Your cat. I'm extremely allergic to cats, so I guess I will not ever stay at your place. But that's good. Yeah, it was moving earlier and I kind of freaked out. I was like, what is that? So I found the picture. Let me share it on the screen so y'all can see. Okay, so y'all see it?
It's still showing me on live, so I don't know if they're.
Oh no. Okay. Okay, there.
Oh wow.
And so like there's me, like me being like it's from the Snapchat. So I'm like, when Big Bro is too authentic and he's like, OMG, like a little too authentic, haha, JK. And I'm like, I'm grateful I could. And that's actually connects to his surname. I called him Verus Confervo because that's Latin for Verus means true or authentic. And then confervo, con means together, and fervo means to heal. And I call him that is because when together I was with him, like in the process, and just still even right now, like together, at least I feel when he's allowing me to be authentic, like I felt healing. So that's his surname. But he goes by Verus because Confervo is long.
Yeah, my line
What were you saying?
I said that's a lot better line name than what I got.
What was your name? Taboo?
No, Voodoo. Voodoo.
Oh, Voodoo. Okay. Okay, I remember something like that. So Voodoo. Is there a story behind that?
There's a PG one and a not PG one.
I don't know. You can probably tell me the not PG another time. But what's the PG one?
PG one is just that I collect little mini voodoo dolls, and
Okay.
like I get myself, and I tend to get in these weird, awkward situations where you would think that I would just be completely destroyed. Just there's no way I can come out of that on positive, but I always do, and then it's always in the weirdest of fashion. So people are just like, man, what the fuck? What voodoo magic did you work up to get out of that? You know? So that's just something. But there is a very NSFW reason as to why I get it.
Okay.
And I'm down to tell. It's just I don't know if it's appropriate for the context of what we're doing since we're.
Yeah, we'll just do that. That's kind of.
If we ever get to meet up again, I'll tell any brother. Let it be known if it's something you have to be told over a beer.
Well, I don't drink, but yeah, you can have the beer if you want.
A couple Sprites.
I'll drink chocolate milk or apple juice. Okay, cool. Well, now let me see then. I'm glad I found the pictures. Then the last one was think about 2 to 3. It doesn't have to be, it could be at least 2 to 3 identities that you've. Let me show myself since I'm talking. That you've seen identities you have that affected or impacted the culture of your local entity, and you can talk about that when you were in the other entity or the entity you're at right now.
Okay, so personal identity, like my identities.
Yeah, your identity is affecting the culture at your other.
So I guess the first one would be my depression, the depressed entity that I have. It was a negative and a positive. Negative because I kept it away from him. I didn't exactly. I wasn't forthright about it, and it caused a bit of a rift, not in between brothers, but just them and me. Like they really felt like they were bummed, you know, because they learned their brother came really close to death. And since then, I've been able to be very forthright. I've started coming clean about everything, and it really opened up. I think maybe not just me in particular. I don't want to say that I'm the reason, but I think it was a good factor as to how open we started becoming in our discourse, and just admitting things, you know, that happened, whether it be an ex-girlfriend, whether it be an abusive relative, whether it be a death in the family, or struggling with your sexuality, just anything like that. Now, on the flip side, aside from that, my honesty. I'm like honest to a fault. I'm very open. I'm very blunt. I have almost no social filter when it comes to my brothers. And I think a person that positively impacted and thus positively impacted the rest of the brotherhood was Antonio. Um, I was very open with him from the beginning. I was very told him like, hey, maybe a little bit before he was ready, but I was kind of just trying to. I didn't have a lot of education, so I probably went about it the wrong way. But I just tell him like, hey, you know, whatever it is about you that you feel like you're uncomfortable with, tell us because we'll embrace you. Now I was trying to hint at the fact that he is gay. Um, he later told me that he thought he was fooling us all. He wasn't. He didn't
Yeah.
fool anyone. He found that hilarious. He's like, I thought I did a good job. I'm like, no, no. That's why whenever it's kind of funny. Whenever he started telling everyone, we're like, yeah, we know. He's like, no. Yeah, yeah. We were trying to tell you, but we're so happy that you finally came out. And he felt so empowered. Like he just felt like a huge weight off his life had been removed. He'd gone his whole life without telling anyone.
Hmm.
And I was just one of the first people that's just like, hey, it's whatever you want to do it. Whatever it is about your sexuality you want to embrace, do it. Whether it be wearing makeup, whether it be getting your ears pierced, whether it be having a boyfriend, whatever you want to do it. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And if they do, tell them fuck. Pardon the language. But that's basically what it was. It was that kind of language and discourse and just being able to tell them, like, do you. Don't let anyone tell you who you're not supposed to be. Only you decide. It's your life you're living, no one else's. No one else is going to live this life for you. Only you can live it. And so telling that to him, and then I started telling that to other brothers, whether it be a brother who was dealing with his own mental issues, whether it was dealing with a brother who had depression. You know, I just kind of set that tone that we have to be honest with each other, and you have to be honest with yourself so others can be honest with you. And I think we've gotten very good at that. So as a colony, we've gotten very, very good at, like, whenever we step on each other's toes, we're very good at being like, hey, this is how I feel. This is how I feel like we're being. Let's not do this anymore. Let's do this instead. Like I said, I don't want to take the credit for that, but I'd like to think that I'm maybe some small factor to it.
Well, that's what impacting and influencing is about, right? It's a collective, right? But there is someone that pushes it and is pushing it a little bit more than others. And so I think that's cool. I remember in Corpus Christi when we were eating at the Applebee's, we were talking about that story.
Yeah.
And then it was just funny because it was like, he's like, yeah, I thought I had everyone fooled. And I was like, and you're all like, no. And I was like, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, I guess I should take it. I keep forgetting to like put me when I'm talking. So can y'all see me? Yay, it's me. I'm wearing letters. I like wearing letters. But yeah, that's funny. One of the things here with my locally, so I don't know if you know, but I don't think Tony knew either. But when I was in a podcast, I was like, yeah, my sexual. It's always nice when the brother or the person can say what they identify as, right? So I identify my sexuality as bisexual. And so when I came out with my brothers, they kind of got stuck. I felt, at least I felt or perceived, and it's still kind of like that sometimes, but they're like, they just perceive me as like, oh, you're gay. And I'm like, but yeah, I like certain guys, but like I also like certain girls, and they still like, I don't know where to like support me sometimes, but it's kind of funny. But when I opened up, I'm trying to think if it's kind of the same similar like with all of you, which was like, oh, we all knew. I don't think they said that, but after a while, they're like, yeah, well, whatever, because I was the first one in our chapter to open up, I guess, about that.
I remember that I was told that you were like the first one from your chapter to be, of an alternative, sexuality.
Yeah, and so yeah, I was the first one, and so Yeah, it was funny. But then now we have like I don't know. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Well, we actually don't know. Maybe more people want to open up. I think they should. Right? Right? Well, I think, well, since I study social justice, I think within queer theory, like everyone's queer, meaning like strange. Queer just means strange. I think everybody just
Right.
is and different. And no, you know, that's some of the. I'm a health teacher too, so I'm not too whatever. I'm not. I kind of speak whatever my mind is um, when it comes to that. But I don't like making other brothers uncomfortable.
I think we all have our own little idiosyncrasies that make us
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it comes to sexuality.
agreed.
So you had your depression as one identity, and then you being honest
Yeah.
as another brother. Is there another identity you wanted to bring up?
Oh, my humor. I think my being a joker is probably a big thing. Anyone who knows me, and it's on the hype, and I'm sure you were too. I'm a really big like prankster, just jokester. I just constantly talk mess because I like getting a laugh out of people. And my particular brand of humor is, I guess you could say, kind of dark but it's interesting to me how you can change people's moods with very few words. Just a couple of
Hmm.
queer words, and everyone's day is ruined. And I've always found that interesting. I'm fascinated by language, and I think that shows in just the way I talk and the way I carry myself. But I'm constantly fascinated with language and how it can alter moods and alter perceptions and alter relationships and everything.
Hmm.
And so I like to do a lot of play on words. I do a lot of double entendres. I do a lot of alliteration. Just and ultimately, it all grafts into just this one identity of a person who's a big jokester. And I
Hmm.
know everyone thinks I'm constantly joking. So when I ever have a moment of reality, everyone's like, "Are you
Whoa.
serious?" Or is this like a big haha? But usually, you can tell when I preface it with a joke or if I'm just being genuine. And but I think my humor has been a big cohesion to a lot of otherwise brothers that would be static with each other. And I think
Mm.
I kind of, sometimes I played the role where I just kind of add a bit of humor as sort of like tension relief, and then they're able to get through it, and then we're all able to laugh, and then we all move on as one.
That's good. Um, um, I don't know. Like I said, we'll spend more time as like all of the people in the diversity team will not only know me as a brother, but learn kind of my style when it comes to leadership. But in any way, just as a person, I'm very like like assertive and like straightforward. I don't like sarcasm. At least for I don't like it when people use it on me because I get confused. But I also don't like using it with myself, like communication wise, because I really want people to understand that whatever I say, I mean, and I mean when I say like literally. I don't, and since I speak a couple of languages, like it's so confusing sometimes when I try to translate something and it's easier to just translate literal things. At least that's just like how my mindset and like how I've all the experiences. That's how I'm built as a person, right? That's my experiences and how I've been wanting to become.
I guess
So,
I should
but
put
that's
that
uh
as a leader. I'm completely opposite. I'm like, no, I don't like joke around. When it's time to be a leader, all jokes off the table. Everything's off the table. It's straightforward. It's like it's this, and this. No jokes. Everyone get to work. But when it's Brotherhood Kenny is a complete goofball. So
yeah.
definitely a bad topic.
That's true, right? And it's important, right, when it comes to leadership and other things. I'm pretty literal and straightforward, no matter what. Just because I am, but I do make jokes. I'm funny. I laugh. I my family tree. Oh, did you say your family tree? What's your family tree?
I actually pretty much created my own tree, like not intentionally.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
on me, psychos. We're psycho tree.
Psycho tree. Okay. Cool.
And
Well, my family tree.
there's actually a story behind it. Um,
Okay.
I just crossed my adopted big at the time. He's not really that anymore. I'm like a child of divorce. I've had a lot of bigs that tried to claim bigs, but there's never really been one. But I have one now. He's not my original big, but he is who I consider my big, and that's Rashard. That's a different story. But my tree is Psycho Tree. We're all collectively known as psychos. Everyone knows this as Psycho Tree. The reason why I got that name is because right after I crossed, I was hanging out with my adopted big Victor, and he had bought me a butterfly knife.
Okay.
So here this is going. And butterfly knife plus Jack and Coke plus playing with a butterfly knife. I was playing with it. I went to go do a really hard trick. It fell, and my hand initially was just to try and grab it when it fell. But the problem is it landed straight up. So my hand went
Mm.
into the blade. So it went in like that. And it went in like a good, well, you can barely see it now. You probably won't be able to see it with the camera, but there's like an indentation here that's like permanent.
Mm.
And it went like that far in, like good amount. Yanked it out. Blood just starts shooting everywhere. And I'm just like,
Oh.
I'm drunk. So I'm just like, oh, this is so Victor screams at me to like go to the bathroom. So I'm like, oh yeah, like very nonchalant about it. And the EMS comes and he's like, so what were you doing? And I was just like, being drunk. I had no reaction. And when Jacob heard the story, who was my president, he was the chapter president, he heard it and he's like, you're fucking psycho. All you guys, psycho tree. Every single one of people in your tree. And so that name stuck. Everyone heard it and it just stuck.
Okay, cool. That's a great story, but it's scary. I don't like seeing blood at all. I'm like, no.
I'm indifferent to blood for the most part. I'm indifferent to it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do medicine. So my family tree is the Susio family tree. Susio meaning like dirty, I guess. Yeah, I know.
We have a Susio tree here in Corpus, and
I know.
Yeah.
It's forget his name. He's the French bro, right?
I'm sorry.
Uh,
Yes.
the-
Street.
yeah, what's that? I have him on Snapchat. Yeah, he's Susio. I'm a Susio too, but like, so it. Around certain brothers, especially my like other Susios, like I would be a Susio. Like I would talk about other stuff. Yeah, I know. But other brothers I don't feel like do it. But if it comes out, I'm like I'm a Susio. So that's why I said that. Because like some brothers sometimes just like, what the did you just say? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Sorry, I guess I haven't been a Susio around you before. So that's another thing with me, at least too, when it comes to like.
Yeah. So just how crazy and out there I am as a person. Just my personality, my outwardness is probably what attributed me to being psycho.
That's funny. So those are the three identities, and all of them, as you saw, well, at least especially me, what I saw, really impact no matter what entity. Even if you're going a different entity or whatever brothers you're around, like it affects it. And I think you mentioned how there's positive and negatives, and I think it's not always as like binary as that, but there's impact. No matter how much you think you might not impact the brotherhood or the culture around who you're with, especially with brothers, you are, no matter what. Like, and hopefully you're doing it for the positive, for empowerment, right? And that's where we want to try to move towards with nationally our culture. Like, since we're one culture and erased, like we're supposedly supposed to be one culture. Like, I don't feel like we are one culture, but if we were to become a one culture, it would be that which is an empowerment, like a culture that empowers us. And so, especially with everything that's happening nationally, like I think that's where, if there is a vision to have and move towards as a brotherhood, it would be that where it's a culture that empowers.
I agree. I think it's very important that we need to start embracing the multiculturalism, and without even having to say what needs to be said about what happened recently in the last couple of weeks on a national basis outside of the brotherhood. That is why we need to embrace our multiculturalism. Otherwise, it's just words on a paper and just something we say to get asses in the seats at sometimes to meet some heights. And that's not what I'm about. That's not honesty to me. We need to be honest, and we need to have integrity, and we need to embrace our multicultural heritage. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're just another frat.
Right. And so that's exciting. So everybody on the team is going to make sure on the diversity team to kind of help build that conversation and vision, so that when we are kind of advising like everyone else in nationals and regionals, since that's kind of our job, we're at least as a team on the same page, and we're working then nationally to get everyone, us collectively, to see where we can be and head towards, especially since in Boston it was very clear that all fraternities, in Boston it was the AFA conference, which is all fraternities and sororities coming together, and so all their national boards, and so it was very clear that we're, as fraternities and sororities in the United States, we're trying to figure out what is our role in this like new kind of era. Like, what is our role? and our role is to show that if we are people with values, right, we need to have integrity, like align those values to our actions. And many of the organizations, including us, with our values, we need to show where we stand in times of when people think we shouldn't stand. But this is like the biggest time to stand, when we are a values-based organization. So, but yeah, so cool. I usually kind of then end, like, if you have any questions, it could be questions on my role, like your role, like the diversity team. You're just going to be on the mental wellness and suicide prevention, right?
Yes, for now. Yes, if need be, if I need to step into another role, I will. But for now, my focus would be for suicide and mental wellness, just because that's where I have personal experience from, and then we'll move from there. I might want to move into LGBTQ because that's something I'm very outspoken for, and it's something I think that doesn't get enough attention. And from having a fraternity, from coming from a colony where one of our most prestigious brothers is himself gay, I think that's an important topic we need to discuss. Because
Right.
I've seen how it impacted. Watched him not be accepted by his own family sometimes, and not be accepted by certain people sometimes. And so I know it's important that we feel like if they don't have a family back home, they have a family here.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, we'll have conversations. And since you're on the diversity team, you can always give input no matter what team you're in, and it's like very open, as you saw within like how we have conversations, whether it be on Facebook. I think it's really cool for anyone to say whatever they feel, and especially give input for other committees, since we all experience brothers for different identities, and even though you're not on that committee, you can still say something really impactful. So is there any other questions you may have?
What are your expectations for me?
My expectations. So I sent you a document that have the expectations. It was called the committee
official document,
members.
And then there's, in your own words,
My own words. So my expectations is that you stay engaged. I want you to, like, I put those 2 videos about how my approach is. I should put myself in the video. I always forget that. My approach, it's collective genius, and that's like an actual concept, like an academic concept of like what that means, where everyone has autonomy, and where there's 3 things. So everybody has the autonomy. Like, I'm not micromanaging. Like, I just want you all to, and luckily everyone's in this because they want to, right? And that's great. That's the best type of like work. So you're staying engaged, right? My expectation is you do that, and you keep yourself in check whenever you need to engage. Another thing is with the collective genius is mastery. Like, I expect anyone with everything they're doing to be mastering what you do, right? So that means gaining knowledge. Like, I will give resources, and I have, about like learning more about certain topics, but it's still your job to master and learn more about that within yourself, right? And or within just the resources I give, hopefully you're looking at those. And then the last one is just contributing. So you contribute in whatever level and capacity you want to. Like, I'm not. There are, like, I'm pretty rigorous when in terms of like, that's why I do these one-on-ones, because this helps me kind of set the standard. It's like, yeah, you should. I'm glad you followed instruction. I can see that you followed instructions, meaning you send me the pictures, we set up the times, and we're doing the call. And then this kind of sets a good standard. It's like, now that we do have a one-on-one connection to this, that when we have conference calls, you're the same way engaged, you contribute, you're well prepared beforehand, and things get done, right? And I'm not one. I've been in so many conference calls since I was like 16 for different things, because the national things I've done with other things, and so like I know when things are productive and not productive, and I've been in too many calls where things are not productive just because of simple things like this. Like, there's no connection with people, there's no want or desire to really be there, and people don't know their stuff to be contributing to the point, and it's not productive. So, but like I said, everyone kind of has expectations on the document, and then I will articulate it very clearly without sarcasm, like when brothers need to do certain things and they haven't. So yeah, but that's good. That's a good question.
Yeah. like I said, of course, there's the document that we sent, but I always like hearing someone's own words, not in a static piece of writing, but actually in their own words, what they want to convey. Because then you get to actually hear the connotation of what it is that we stress that is important. And I always find that necessary in order to build up a bond of trust.
Right? Exactly. Do you have other questions?
Hmm. What was the deciding factor for why you guys started this? What was that moment where it's like, this is why?
For what?
To become to add the diversity thing for OD5 to
So what
become
was
the.
the so with me and or nationally?
I'm assuming. Well, you're pretty much spearheading it. So, what was that deciding moment for you where you decided that I need to do this and I need to take charge?
So I did not actually take charge. It was Tony, his president, our national president. So um, I don't know if you know Ruben Moody. So he's a director, national director for membership development. So they put him. So I met Ruben Hernandez, who's the VP for leadership and development. He was like building his team. I met him at Southwest's regionals last year in Vegas, and I was like, "This is so cool!" It was like past national president. He's a VP now, and I told him about lots of ideas I have, and he was like, "Well, there's openings that I want people in my team to be on," and then I was still an undergrad, so he was like, "Well, technically, you couldn't be on the team." So once I graduated, I guess in May, um, they put me on under Ruben Moody, who was membership development, but as a assistant director for diversity. So it was just like small, but then his role as membership development director mainly stuck and is still kind of on like colony to chapter status, like support. And diversity was not really allowed, and I couldn't really do much because I was like kind of waiting on him, to like help give me autonomy, right? The power to do it. And then Tony then was like at nationals was like, well, because I presented at nationals, and then they saw that I am well versed in it, right? And because there's lots of brothers that want to do things, but they might not be well versed, or like that's not their actual expertise, right? Um, and I'm glad that Tony's looking for people that are knowledgeable and that's their expertise, and then like he keeps saying, I want a team that one person does one good thing, like he's really good at that thing, rather than having one person to try to do a lot of things, right? And so, um, and then he told me kind of, well, not him, it was the VP. Well, him and Tony told me, Ruben, like in September, yeah. By the time I saw you all in Corpus Christi, they kind of told me they're like, yeah, we're thinking of maybe making you a director, so rather than you're an assistant director of this, you're the national director, so you can actually do a lot more. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I said, I wasn't like spearheading. I was like, okay, well, I have a lot of things in mind. I just can't do them because it's kind of weighty. And then I went to Boston where they made it official, right? So to the AFA conference, and it was great because actually at that conference, I introduced myself. I'm like, I'm the national director of diversity, and we're the only fraternity who has or sorority that I saw that's multicultural that has a director of diversity. And I was like, wow, we're pioneering in this. So great. I have no one to look to in how we should do this. That's great because now, right? Huh?
You're spearheading it.
Yeah, like so. I then at that point I was like, "Dang, this is so cool!" Like I'm so happy that Tony had this vision and then put me in this space and role so that I can do it because I didn't want to do it. But it was Tony who had the vision for it. So
Impressive. I'm very impressed. Tony, yet again, impresses me. Tony's got a vision, and it's an impressive one. And just when I think I've got him all figured out, he impresses me once again.
right.
Well,
Yep.
I think that's everything for questions as far as I have. Those are really the only things I had to ask.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you again, Kenny, for doing this call. This is, it's a live thing, so it's going to be posted on my YouTube channel, so the brothers in the committee can watch it. Yeah, great. So then we'll end. And I usually end with like the air deltas a, and then let me show you because it's only showing me. So having you. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Are you sticking your tongue out?
Yeah, I'm doing the almo.
We do that at Susios. We do the delta and stick our tongue out, but
Not to suit you, I guess.
right. But cool. Thank you. And then, like I said, thank you for doing the doodle. We'll be in contact, and we'll be on a conference call very shortly, hopefully next week or the week after. Okay.
Win, man, and we'll be good to go.
Okay. Then you have a good night.
You too, man.
Talk to you later. Ciao.